Hello and welcome to another video from the only channel that you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. Today's video is going to be about how to research the Bible for yourself using the internet. I get asked quite often if there were any good links that people could use to do the same research that I do, and I'm just going to show you the links that I use. I really pretty much stick to these three, and the first one is Google. And I'm not going to tell you how to get to Google, because you probably already know, but you can just type in anything you're looking for and the word Bible next to it. So I did a thing about food a while back where I had to research bread. So I've typed up here in the search box Bible, well, bread, and then Bible. And we click and it brings us to a cookbook, the Bread Bible. But also on this page, if you're going down reading what it says, you'll see things like this. What does the Bible say about bread? Open Bible info. And it's just a whole bunch of scriptures about bread. Very, very good research tool. And there's a lot of them like that. But unfortunately, the internet is open to everybody, and a lot of churches have got things on the internet. So you can type in Bible bread, and if they're trying to teach you something about their agenda, like only get bread from church stores that are supported by that church or whatever, I mean, that's just an example. It's not a good one, but the thing is, you don't want to get other people's opinions and think you're getting facts. Now, the tool that I really use the most, and Google, I usually do start with Google, but the tool I use the most is this page here, and I will give you a link to these next two pages because these are the ones I go to all the time. And this is Strong's Concordance with Hebrew and Greek Lexicon. Now, I know that I always tell you, do not use a King James Bible if you're trying to learn the Bible and it's your first time through. You need to read something in your own language, and archaic English is not your own language. Plus, the King James Bible adds an incredible amount of scriptures, and they also take out an incredible amount of scriptures, and it's even though if it was in perfect modern English, it would still be confusing. But here's the deal. Almost every scripture that I know, and probably almost every scripture you know, is a King James Version scripture. So if you use a concordance for some other Bible, and you type in a word for a scripture that you know, a very good chance it won't come up. So I stick with the King James Version Concordance because all the scriptures in my head are in the King James Version, just about. I've got quite a few of them are in the New World Translation because of my association with Jehovah's Witnesses. But King James is still as far as when you're looking stuff up, you want to stick to the King James Concordance if you can. And so here I've typed into the search box, and I never use these searches down here because I've got a better resource for that, but this search up here is Strong's Concordance of the King James Version of the Bible. I've typed in the word bread, so we'll go on, click search, and we'll go to that where it actually says bread, and below that it will list every single place in the Bible that has the word bread. So if we look at the very bottom, there's 14 lists. That's actually 14 pages similar to this page. And you'll notice there's a little number next to these. Like this one says 3899 and it says bread. This one says bread, but it's 4682. And the reason for that is 4682 is actually a word that means unleavened bread. It's a completely different word than the word for bread. And so it's not a problem there. But if we click on this one, 3899, we come to a different page that actually tells us things about bread, or that word. It's first off, the word is lechem. You can read it right there, and if you can't figure out how to say it from reading it, you can come over here and just press this little play button.
Strong's H 3899 lechem.
See, y'all thought I was smart, but this is what I use when I'm cheating. But it gives us an outline of the biblical usage. Bread, food, grain, bread, corn, food in general. And that's really not accurate with the King James Bible. The King James Bible translates this word lechem in many, many, many ways, other than what they say there. Now, another thing I like is this Jesenius lexicon. very old book, and it gives you a couple of ideas of what people suspect this word is. And when I say suspect, I mean that because it's an ancient language, and a lot of these words no longer exist, and so you have to take guesses sometime, and this is basically people's best guess. Food both of men and beast, and underneath it says, the food of God used for sacrifice, or of sacrifice. Now, if we come down here, we'll see every single place where the word lechem showed up, and Genesis 3:19 is the very first place. And if we go to the bottom, we'll see every list of the very last place this word is used as Malachi, because Malachi is the end of the Hebrew portion of the Bible. After that, the words are in Greek. So you may have to do a different search to find out what the New Testament says about bread. But if we go here, let's just go on page 5, because the first, I already looked at this. The very first one is kind of confusing. And this is 1 Samuel 20, verse 34. If you notice, all this at the top is the same. The top of the page stays the same. It's got the little pronunciation key and the definitions. And if you come down here, you just get more scriptures. And the first one is 1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 34, where it says, So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger and did eat no meat. And that's same word, 3899, lechem. But that doesn't, to us that might be confusing. Below that, 3899 mean loaves of bread. And then the one below that is bread. But see, this one here stands out. And I've said before, if you're in a Bible and you're doing some research and you're in this, using these tools, this King James Concordance, and you see a scripture that doesn't match, like that one obviously doesn't match. How can meat be bread? Well, what we can do is go to this next resource, and I will put a link to this one as well. This is Bible Hub by Biblos. Incredibly good resource. And see, I've already typed in here 1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 34. We click on the little magnifying glass, and it takes us to 20, or a whole bunch of, I counted them before, I can't remember, a whole bunch of different Bibles in a row. The first one's a New International Version. I highly recommend this Bible. It has quite a few of the inaccuracies. It carries the the traditional translation. So when it's trying to prove a church doctrine, it will color the scriptures to make it appear as if it's not a church doctrine, but an actual Bible teaching. But see, it says here, Jonathan got up from the table in fierce anger. On that second day of the feast, he did not eat. So they didn't even put the word in there, bread. They just said he did not eat, which that's basically the idea anyway. But if we come down here, we'll see the King James Version again. So Jonathan rose from the table and did eat no meat. But interestingly enough, there is a newer version of the King James called King James 2000. And in this one it says, So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger and did eat no food. So we see that that word lechem actually can mean food in general. And in fact, I did a video a while back called Bible Food. I highly recommend it if you don't have a good understanding of what kind of food God approves of and what kind of food God does not approve of. You go watch that video. It's a very excellent video, and I used all of these tools to make it. So let's see what else we can get from this page. If we come up here, we have this, which is where we are now, parallel. It's the same page. Next to it is lessons, topics, Strong's, comment, interlinear, Hebrew, lexicon, multi. Interlinear, Hebrew, and lexicon are basically the same thing, but they're just different versions of it. And we'll click on interlinear just so you can see how this is. We get down here to the second line. His father had dishonored because David over was grieved. Jonathan table. Okay, there it is up here. Food the second of the new day, eat and did not. And this is basically one version of the Bible that exists that has been translated from the original. There's the Hebrew symbols. Below it is the English. Up here's the pronunciation for that. And here's the Strong's number. So let's go over to the... I just want to show you what this looks like. It's more like a chart. The Hebrew. And we come down here. Let's see. There it is, lechem. Down here, 3899, that word, Strong's, lechem. And there's original Hebrew with the marks underneath for what they consider as possibly the vowels. These are all consonants. Underneath these marks kind of are supposed to represent what kind of a vowel to put in there. But they translate it as food once again. You know, I really like this page. I'm going to go back and show you some of the tools that are in here. One thing is like this atlas. And so you can type in a location, any location you want. Let's do Israel. I can't see that. I think I just typed in Israel. My fingers were on the right place on the keyboard. Yes. And it says right here, Bible map, Israel. And there's a little map. And there's a lot of tools that are associated with this as well. I mean, you can do a lot of things with this. If you notice there's Ammon, that's another one that's, it's interesting that, when that comes up, there are a lot of prophecies in the Bible, and these prophecies speak about locations on the map, saying that we shall go to Ammon. And this is something where, translators have to actually guess, because the prophecy may be talking about Ammon, a place, a location on the map, and it may not be, because there is one scripture, it's in the prophecy of the king of the north and the king of the south, where it's talking about the end times, when all this destruction is going on. And it says the only ones that will survive are Ammon, Moab, and Edom. And so a lot of people that think they understand prophecy will go back and they'll go, well, Ammon, I think that's a city where the Muslims live. Why would they? They try to figure it out using a map. But the word the words Ammon, Moab, and Edom mean men, women, and people. So when it's talking about this destruction, it's basically saying that the only ones that will survive are men, women, and people. So basically everybody. But people that are trying to do prophecy by a map, they're not going to figure that out. Anyways, there's some of our tools. I guess this is kind of bad because it makes people think that they realize that I'm cheating. I'm not really as smart as I seem, especially with these translations. I mean, saying the words like lechem. Wow, he knows Hebrew. I don't know Hebrew. I just know how to get to this page. But in any case, those are all the tools. I'll put the links in the description box. And if there's somebody out there that can do this over again, like where they don't have to use a camera, you can just take and copy what's on the screen and you post that, send it to me as a video response, and I will link to it, and then you'll get more subscribers because I got a lot. All right, we'll see you. Love you. If you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.